An album that bathes in its feel-good energy from its opening track to its literal airplane taking off finale. A Million Miles Away is a roller coaster ride taking you off your feet and up for a corkscrew loop-de-loop ride through all the places you wish you were able to visit. Macross 8299 delivers on this 2014 upbeat and groovy classic that followed up his 2013 highly praised and widely adored Sailor Wave album. And it does this with a glowing prism of songs to constantly keep your attention and emotion at an all-time high on this wild ride atop the city skyline. On the track This Feeling, Macross takes a quick pit stop and kicks you out into a live disco party taking place on like a sandy sun-baked beach with its soulful vocal lead, Nile Rodgers-esque guitar riff, and classic disco drumming pattern, all glazed appropriately with just enough of a flanger effect. On Fugaz, which translates to fleeting in Spanish, we literally feel like we're forever stuck in the most prettiest, comfiest elevator up to the next song of the album, Ask a Bad Girl, that's what it translated to, where the door opens and we're immediately greeted to a skyscraper pool party full of wild saxophone players and some Japanese dudes singing the sweetest vocal sample over and over again. And don't even get me started about Night in Tokyo Part 2. Goddamn, that has to be one of my favorite songs ever. Just when you think, how can this track list possibly get any more fun, it comes right in the middle of the album, and this song just has this lead melody battle of heavily filtered and euphoric piano keys, competing with that itchy, wishy-washy, larger-than-life guitar line, all making you feel like you're on a neon light-soaked carousel ride right in the heart of Tokyo nightlife. And remember, these are only a couple examples of the songs on here. Each song has its own distinct feel to it that you need to hear from start to finish to truly experience. And it surprisingly does a very good job at going from high energy songs to low energy songs without sacrificing the powerful emotion this album is trying to emit. But let's get on to the vinyl, that's why we're here, and I was super stoked to see this thing get released, and I'm still pretty shocked I was able to grab one before they sold out. I think they sold out in like minutes. I remember I was at a local bar one night with some buddies, and I randomly decided to check my phone and my email. I don't know why, it was like 10:30 at night, and I was hanging out, so I don't know why I checked my email. But yeah, it was 10:30 at night, it was pretty late, and all of a sudden I saw New from Neon City Records pop up. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty sweet. Unknown to what was just around the corner upon clicking that link. Well, a couple months came and went, and it was a pretty long wait, but it's here, and it was shipped in this like UFO spaceship packaging. It looks pretty wild. I was pulling into my house and saw it sparkling in the sun. Really felt like I discovered some out of this world package. Upon opening it, the vinyl's presentation is great. The artwork looks flawless, and all the rich colors on the album art pops out really well and just looks high quality. And we got that classic Japanese obi strip, which you know Pat Chennington is a sucker for. There's nothing like the mysterious curvature and complexity of Japanese characters popping out on bold flat colors. I don't know why, but like from a graphic designer perspective, it always looks so fresh. And the vinyl itself sounds great. Big props to Neon City Records here, as I believe this is their first vinyl pressing. I was worried they were going to somehow botch the sound quality of it all, as some people, me included, found that their A Million Miles Away cassette played back faster than the original recording. But all worries have been completely kicked out the door, as we have everything the way it was not only originally meant to sound, but supposed to sound. The sound quality is great. I'm so happy my first real future funk vinyl sounds this good. Everything sounds so explosive, so animated, so crisp, and Macross has some loud sounds on here, so it could have totally sounded washed out on a poor pressing, but it sounds completely crystal clear. So yeah, do not be afraid to play this thing super loud, it absolutely bumps. The lighter sounding songs on here always sound delicate. They're given the proper treatment to make these sweet and dreamy tunes breathe through my speakers wonderfully. While on the other hand, the heavier and rowdier intended songs step up to the plate and absolutely blast it out of the park. A grand slam of rich keys and horns, vocal samples, and heavy hitting drums to keep you jamming through the night. The vinyl really helps you appreciate each song's personal level of energy and brings out Macross's intentions perfectly. The record we got here is on a standard black color, which I think looks great as it doesn't deviate attention from the beautiful and colorful artwork on the jacket if it were to be like a blue or a really loud yellow. It's a pretty thick record too, and it's like the flattest record I've ever seen. This thing does not move at all up and down. Pressing quality is extremely high class, and it's exciting to see that Neon City Records is going about these with extreme precision and care. So I have no worry in the world for the Sailor Wave record coming in, for the Fantasy record by Night Tempo coming in. It's gonna be some good stuff. The vibrant inner sticker pairs perfectly with the album art as well, wrapping up this entire package with a universally beautiful flow and consistency. So now that the weather's changing and spring is right around the corner, I'm so excited to start blasting this record with the windows open. It's the perfect party starter. Someone bring an inflatable pool over and Chennington's gonna start grilling some burgers. We got sausage and peppers over here, hot dogs, whatever you guys want. Seriously, this album is a constant head rocker and will have everyone you know asking who the artist is or what song this is. Growing up, I was always surrounded by disco. My dad was a huge disco head and he used to actually DJ in the late 70s during high school. Albums like this, especially on vinyl, evoke that charm and feel-good energy and just memories in my head of disco bliss that I think we all have a serious sweet spot for deep down in our soul. From the artwork quality, to the presentation, to the vinyl quality, and just the sound overall, this thing passed the Chennington test with flying colors. A high five to Neon City Records on pushing this thing out. Great job, and I'm super pumped to get the Fantasy and Sailor Wave albums from you guys as well, and hopefully see Sailor Wave 2 get announced in the near future. Modern day French house or thoroughly crafted future funk, whatever you want to call it, Fiber's intergalactic dance banger 810 is out on vinyl record, and today I want to take a look at not just the physical we have here, but a breakdown of the album as well, from what makes the track list so damn groovy to some interesting notes from the artist himself. 810 was created over a 1.5 year period, and its lengthy creation time proves worthy in its stellar production value. Finished on his 18th birthday in 2016, 810 digs into some obscure music and presents it to a bigger scene by mixing original production and sample-based content. The album would end up introducing the ambitious young producer to some exciting opportunities. I met some of my best friends, traveled thousands of miles across the US and Europe for tours, helped run Future Society for a year, started my own record label, and more. Originally dropped on the well-known Business Casual label, 810 came out in September of 2016 and was met with praise due to its catchy blending of melodic vocal samples, liquidy and crunchy bass lines reminiscent of that French house era, and dynamic drum mixing, a well-knit sweater of comfy, cheerful, spacey sounding new disco. Fiber sampled a lot of underground disco tracks on here, and also some unusual samples like a track from an early 2000s Weather Channel, stuff that you would usually see on a more like traditional vaporwave kind of project, nothing really on something that has as much energy as you see here. At least I haven't seen that. The tracklist is short in its runtime, but don't let the quantity get you down here, as 810's dedicated quality glistens in a community that can sometimes see some unoriginal sampling, mediocre drum EQing, and lazy chops. The original release on Business Casual contains 6 tracks, while the deluxe version contains 8 tracks, an extra bonus and remix track thrown on there. For anyone who's a fan of the old French house, French touch days, as well as future funk fans, and want something more than the stereotypical future funk sweet tooth effect, that's what I like to call it, you know, where like every song is just glued to the 128 BPM and just contains random jabs of anime samples that kind of get boring after a while and annoying. 810 is a beautifully crafted, original collection of tracks that'll keep you grooving from day to night with its powerful energy and crystal clear direction. One thing I really love about Fiber's 810 is how he pretty much did everything himself on here, not just producing the songs, but the mastering of each medium the album was put on, and even the album artwork. Fiber completely submersed himself into his release of 810. It was an album that meant a lot to him, more that may meet the eye from its upbeat and cheerful personality you get from it at first impression. It was a massive turning point in my life. I consider it to be the point where I started seriously maturing, taking on a lot of work, going to college, and thinking about adulthood. So yeah, as I just mentioned, Fiber also did the vinyl mastering for what I'm holding right here. Corespect Records pressing of the album on 150G dark blue vinyl. And while the album digitally sounds great, I was curious to see how it would all sound translated onto vinyl, as Fiber would end up using different masters for each type of medium he dropped the album on. Corespect would end up dropping 300 copies of these on vinyl, 70 copies of it on chrome cassette, and 50 copies on CD. The release also features 2 bonus Fiber tracks, Digital Light and Jupiter Love, which were previously unavailable anywhere. Heavily researching the engineering process for vinyl mastering, Fiber completely redid everything originally done upon its first release to put onto this record. Another interesting fact to note, Fiber also did the mixing for EV.EXI's Remember, another colossal future funk release under the same label. And I was really impressed with Corespect Respect's release of Remember, the whole production process seemed very well handled for the new and upcoming Future Funk label, as the whole package seemed super high quality and everything sounded great. With big expectations for 810, as they've set the bar pretty high with Remember, I was excited to see how everything would end up sounding. There's a lot of promise with this thing. With a nice little extra attention to care, 810 over here comes in a pretty durable poly sleeve, similar to what was given to us with the Remember release as well. High quality printing on the album artwork as well to really match up with that dark blue record, making the original 810 cover change in time from day to night. I really appreciate the preparation taken for the record, as everything is sturdy and strong, from the jacket to the weight of the record and everything in between. Comparing this to other records in my collection, it just feels like this thing holds a lot of weight and stands out from the pack as a truly dense, trustworthy physical release. In regards to the pressing's creativity, I love seeing a darker, more humble color choice for a colored record. I find a lot of releases, especially in the vapor vinyl scene, they just jump immediately to the most out there, in your face, obnoxious and bright colors they can think of to really make the record pop on a player and look all pretty. But 810 here is super subtle, and the darkness of the color choice combined with the thick, heavy pressing makes this thing look super clean and hefty. It obviously also pairs well with the darker tones of the artwork as well. Try throwing the record up against the light to reveal some interesting effects. I'll let you try that one out for yourself. Fiber's masterful production and knowledge of audio engineering shines wonderfully on this thing, following up from his work on Evie's record with full force. Tracks like Echoplex featuring Tendencies is a great example, as that high melody separates itself from the mid-range sample, all giving a great amount of room for those pumping kicks and bass lines in the low. It sounds roomy, atmospheric, and intensifies that intergalactic flangery disco charm we saw all the way back on the original release. If this pressing didn't have these bonus tracks on here, it definitely would have been pretty short, and that would have been a con to call out for it. But I mean, they added some extra tracks on here, so you do get your money's worth in regards to time on a record pressing. And like I said before, the quality of the album and the record is great, so it's a win-win here. With only 300 copies, I don't expect an album that sounds like this to last for too long. Happy I'm able to add one to the collection. I was also sent a test pressing in the past from Fiber and Respect for this album, which was absolutely awesome to receive. It's really cool seeing how these things start out and what they end up to be. I've never owned a test pressing before, so once again guys, thanks for sending me that. I'm gonna link the record in the description of this video if you're interested in picking one up. I highly recommend checking it out if you're in the mood to groove. I'm excited to see what else comes out of Fiber in the future, as well as Respect Records, as I really love how much attention they're putting into their releases. We're gonna get ready for the summer. April is here, ladies and gents, and the weather is getting better. And you know, Pad baby, I'm dying for them barbecues. I'm ready to sizzle like a rotisserie chicken in the sun, throw a baseball around, maybe get a little crazy, bring the TV outside and set up like Mario Party 2, whip all my friends' asses and that. But listen, most of all, it's almost the best time of the year to dance to that sweet, sweet sound of future funk. Ladies and gents, grab some shorty shorts and a nice tank top, because you and I will be diving headfirst into the world of Young Bay and the vinyl release of his classic future funk banger, Bay 2. I hope you brought your sunscreen, because today I want to dissect this album, dive into one of the many pieces that got Young Bay to the place he is today, and also take your hand with me as we explore this limited edition tour exclusive vinyl I have right here of the album. We'll get into that later in the video, as well as a bunch of other things, so watch the whole thing, and please hit that like button and consider subscribing. It helps out the channel a ton. Anyways, without further ado, bon voyage, because it is time to set sail with Bay 2. To many of us in the community, we kind of know at this point what we're getting into when we listen to Young Bay, especially with his earlier releases like Bay, the original one, Bay 2, and pretty much all of the Japanese disco edits. With an approach fixated on finding samples already beautifully crafted and groovy, really roomy and energetic drum mixing, and knowing when to put the track underwater, as I like to call it, with all of his filters and effects, Young Bay and his formula is pretty simple, tried and true, but most importantly, effective effective, and party igniting. Look, I can discuss music and make note of songs with stellar production value and depth all I want, but at the end of the day, the most important thing to me that makes me personally happy with music, especially future funk, is if I'm dancing or not. If I'm tapping my foot, bouncing my head, and going like, God damn, in my thoughts, it's good, and I'm cooking. That's fine with me. And that's the beauty of the genre I think a lot of us forget about, because in this day and age, with all the crazy good, incredibly produced music we've been hearing and we want to hear more of, and just insane instrumentals being put into some of this stuff, really the stuff that's coming out nowadays is like pretty wild. Remember, sometimes though, it's so fun to just bring it back to that simple future funk that we all complain about, that's super lazy, that its pure intention was just to make us dance, nothing less and nothing more. And I think Bay 2 does that, but I wouldn't necessarily call it lazy, because it does sound really well produced. The drums sound really good, but we'll get into that. So yeah, early Young Bay is really just that. In a nutshell, it's a selection of infectious samples with some minimal and controlled tweaking, glazed over with some filters and dance-tastic drum selections that just further exaggerate and enhance the power, the groove, and just the feelings the original songs already had. I always refer to the original Bay as my guilty pleasure, right? It's this cheap bliss that emits from this album, and it's just gorgeous to me, and it's such a simple listen, and it makes it so good. It has so much charm, and it's raw, straight to the point, like just energy, and it's this track list that has like stutter chops every once in a while, but nothing crazier than that. It's pretty much just a simple touch-up of samples and molding them together to make them that much groovier. Which, yeah, might not be the most intensely produced project ever, but like I said with my feelings on future funk as a whole, I'm dancing, you're dancing, we're all dancing, so I really don't have a problem with it. I actually got a chance to talk to Young Bay about the original Bay release and on, anything about how he made it and whatnot, which he replied, nothing crazy as far as the origin goes. Made it in about 1 to 2 weeks just after I dropped out of university. It was right after I'd fully discovered future funk vaporwave, and I was absolutely hooked. Bay 2, at a construction and technicality standpoint, is pretty much the same as the original Bay. Not too much is done with the samples here, besides looping them at the right times, at the perfect parts of those songs where they're at their grooviest state. Simple chops, and building, the intro, verse, chorus, verse 2, chorus 2, outro, with like almost all of them. But it is way more polished in regards to the mix down than the original one, and that's what really makes it stand apart from that one. With 12 sizzling tracks that are nothing short of pure butter to your ears, Bay 2 is the soundtrack to your dream metropolitan escape. These songs that document the love story between you and that special someone exploring the city on a hot summer day with no worries in the world but to dance your way street to street, corner to corner, and hot dog stand to hot dog stand. And some of the tunes on here are just damn bangers. The track Here With Me, that one part where the intro like sucks into a vacuum in the beginning and just like disappears, and then the beat drops and explodes out of nowhere, it's just pure candy to my ears, cavities to the eardrums. The classic Bay track Your Love is on here, as well as a bunch of others. Don't Stop featuring the Flamingo Man himself is on here, as well as Party in Me and much more. The non-vinyl original album art of Bay 2, I'm gonna block this out just in case it's like too much for YouTube. I don't even know. Shows a very dressed lady. I don't know how she's not freezing to death, even if it is the summer. I don't know if she's laying on a blow-up raft. It seems like she's laying on a blow-up raft in the middle of the Hudson River. Do you know how cold that would be? Young Bay always got to have these over-the-top anime album covers, or Bay 2 here, or him like laying for a photo shoot in 1997. It's the type of music you slyly hit play on while shoving your phone in your pocket, so the person next to you on the bus won't question your taste. Of course, the person next to you on the bus probably doesn't know just how good Young Bay's music is. So yeah, Bay 2, in a nutshell, simple future funk. I mean, I feel Bay can almost put out anything at this point, and people love it. I always end up loving it too. The dude's just got an amazing grip on pumping the community up and how to get people excited for releases, which at the end of the day, it's the most important thing with the future funk genre, just having a good time and dancing, in my opinion. And he also has a really solid vision on how he wants to promote himself and pretty much run the entire Future Funk live scene. I mean, there's been more shows definitely this year than ever for Future Funk. Shout out to Essential. My boy's killing it over there. But let me tell you, a Young Bae show, man, oh my god, Young Bae shows. I've been to 3 of his shows now, and I swear, they're just getting better and better and better every single time. It's the closest any of us are ever going to get to going to Studio 54, so you might as well go to a Young Bae show. Anyways, let's talk about this little beaut we got over here. This is the limited edition tour exclusive vinyl for Bae 2. There are also 2 other versions of this record that exist that were sold via My Pet Flamingo, a baby pink and sky blue edition vinyl and cassette as well, all unsurprisingly have sold out. Right off the bat, there are obviously some immediate changes to the album art, which I really like. A super simplified anime makeover of the original art that is super flat and complements that basic line work with it. It's just really chill, and it just looks like what Future Funk sounds like if it was a thing you can look at. It's really similar, pretty much the same thing as what he did to the original Bae vinyl. Opening everything up, here we got the record along with a vertical poster. Young Bae has included a poster last time with the original Bae vinyl as well, but this time around, which is really funny because I made note of this on my original unboxing video of the Bae vinyl, the poster is super high quality and glossy, when last time it was kind of flimsy. Young Bae ain't got no time for that crinkly ass paper anymore. We got luxury paper this time around. And the vinyl color itself, this has got to be one of my favorite treatments in regards to a color I have seen so far this year on record. I love the look of this thing. It's really powerful. It's this like transparent, glowing brass looking record. It just looks like pure gold. It really brings to play the visions of the colors of like a late 1970s disco club with lights reflecting off of everyone's gold chains and jewelry. You feel this disco energy from it. Great choice on here with the color Bae. Also, peep the fresh long sleeve tee. Fits great, and I love the little tour accent on the back. Sound wise, killer. Great job on the sound. Everything was translated excellently to vinyl, and I really didn't expect anything less than great for this one. The original Bae vinyl also sounds great, and if anything, I would have definitely had more worries with that album getting translated over to vinyl just because of its really raw nature already. Yeah, the original Bae just sounds like a sun-damaged boombox from the 80s. That's what Bae. This time around, it's like a lot more. Bae 2 is a more polished record, definitely. So it translated well onto vinyl. With Bae 5 coming around the corner, and my man got a goddamn live orchestra to record some music on this. Young Bae is simply killing it, and I'm really proud of how he has established himself as a pretty much like the main dude running the genre. And I'm not putting anyone else down, but in regards to just someone who is really just doing everything he can to get bigger and bigger shows. Every Young Bae show I've been to, every time it's a bigger crowd in a bigger venue. He's like opening for Zed, he's playing at Firefly, I think, or some shit. Like, he's doing really good. But listen, Young Bae, listen to me. Don't sleep on Pad Chennington though, you son of a bitch, because I'm coming for you, baby. My live sets this summer, I'm gonna have people dancing on the goddamn ceiling. So, I don't know if you could beat that. Remember, by Glasgow-based artist EV.EXI, a 2017 future funk French house release pressed by upcoming and pretty promising label Corspect Records. If you love talking future funk, vaporwave records, and things alike, make sure you hit that little subscribe button, and if you happen to pick this bad boy up as well, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Remember was a very solid release for the Future Funk catalog in 2017, as many people, including myself, consider it to be one of the best Future Funk releases of the year. We're at a point now in the Future Funk genre where we kind of know what to expect when an album or EP gets dropped, as trying to revolutionize Future Funk sound with a different procedure than the sample, loop, chop, repeat formula, it would pretty much put it in a different category of music. It wouldn't really be future funk anymore. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Simplicity is bliss when it comes to following the easygoing formula of future funk production. And I always find it as a fun and inviting escape from the other genres of music I'll listen to when I, just want to turn my mind off and maybe pretend I'm suntanning on a giant floating turtle oasis island off the coast of Japan, wearing contact lenses that give everything a VHS filter as I enjoy another day in virtual summer paradise surrounded by other slightly offbeat dancing characters of 80s and 90s anime. How sweet it sounds. That being said, I like to judge future funk releases these days on how the artist layers the tracks with different instruments and sounds, instead of obviously just looping, for 2.5 minutes the same sample. I like to look at fluidity between the tracks on the track list and, how the artist makes it sound like one entire cohesive listening experience, and also, if the sample choices just excite me. And this is what makes Remember such a solid and hearty release for the genre. It's executed well, knows what it is, and keeps you hooked from start to finish. Samples are chopped up in unexpected and exciting ways, causing certain loops to drag over and eagerly push into the next measure at times. We also see the opposite, where at times a sample is cut short and the track just, prematurely twists into something else. Corespect getting this thing to us in July was the perfect treat for the summer. This thing's track list is super dancey, fun, and retro. If you got a dancing soul, you're gonna like it, plain and simple. Can't ask for anything more. When I turn on the Barbie outside and throw a couple dogs, couple burgers on with some friends, this is just some good summertime music. As this is Corespect's first artist authorized vinyl release, they really picked up a gem here, and when I heard news of this EP getting pressed, I was hoping they'd do a good job on the quality of it all. With UK label My Pet Flamingo killing it with their pressing of Forever by Turnt Boy 95, and Neon City's high quality sound on A Million Miles Away and Fantasy by Night Tempo, Future Funk has been sounding pretty good when getting pressed onto vinyl, so I was hoping Corespect would follow along. Corespect Records pressed 200 copies of Remember, and what's also cool about the pressing was once 100 copies were to be sold, anyone who purchased a copy of the record were automatically entered into a drawing for a free test pressing of the record. No more than 10 test pressings would exist of the record, so having this would be a pretty cool collectible to say the least. Who doesn't love a nice test pressing, especially if it's free? So from first glance, we're holding one of the most aesthetic looking album covers ever, like straight up from your 6th grade earth science textbook. We got 4 ballies chilling heavy over a purple glazed gradient night sky with an overlooking godlike vector clock. Just give it a holler, if you ever need the time. The back follows along nicely with a simple track list, and it comes with a nice sturdy plastic jacket to keep this thing nice and warm. I wouldn't want this thing catching a cold. Record-wise, I love the transparent purple here. It matches perfectly with the gradient background on the album art. And I'm just a sucker for the transparent pressing look anyway. I think it's just a sharp finish, and it works really well aesthetically. Corespect Records also correlate the inner stickers with the gradient as well, making this whole thing wrap up pretty cohesively. Audio-wise, everything was mastered wonderfully here, and I pretty much have no complaints. As I've said before, something I love about this EP specifically is its exciting and unpredictable method of chopping up the samples and the beat. And all that sounds really, really great on here. It's sharp, clean cut, and crystal clear. Tracks like Mode, for example, I want you to listen to this track where you have that drop to a 2/4 beat towards the end of the song on side A. That part's absolutely killer, and it's a great demonstration of the pressing's quality. It has the in and out dropping of instruments chopped along with the drum beat absolutely punching forward. Great job here, Corespect Records. I absolutely love it. I would keep Corespect Records on your radar if you're a fan of Future Funk sound, as recently they have been opening discussions on the Vapor Vinyl and Future Funk subreddits about getting another Future Funk classic, Righteous Groove by Aesthetics Please press. They have stated the artist is on board with the idea, and that they would also try and replicate the awesome splatter look of the mock-up vinyl my good friend made for me on the Righteous Groove vinyl in my Future Funk Vinyl Records video, where I talk about hypothetical, Future Funk records I would love to see get pressed. If that thing is done with the same quality and attention to detail that we have here on Remember, that'll definitely be a fun thing to spin. The future of Future Funk vinyl pressings are definitely looking extremely promising. As more of these releases come out, it is really heartwarming to see artists and labels take the time to make these pressings top notch and not just, take the files and throw them onto a record. They sound great. The Split EP was a 2014 collaboration project between the artists Supersex 420 and Tendencies. It's an album that has found itself to become a bit of a classic, to say the least, in the future funk scene. Today, we're going to be exploring the fascinating story of how this album was brought back to life in a deluxe form, how one man destined himself to recover all of the missing files from the original project to bring the album out to the best of its abilities for a vinyl release. And we are also going to be taking a look at that specific limited edition vinyl pressing of this restored Future Funk classic. We just got a whole bunch we're going to explore today, so I want you to sit back, get cozy, grab that comfy blanket, because not only are we looking at some delicious vinyl today, but there is just a story that goes with this thing that makes it all that much more special. And just in case you're new to the channel, which if you are, make sure you click that subscribe button, you know the deal. Future Funk is a subgenre of another electronic genre, which I obviously talk about a lot on this channel, Vaporwave, which mainly focuses on recycling or repurposing old samples and painting them in a new narrative, from brooding to hazily nostalgic. For Future Funk, however, we have a focus on a sound style more sweet, funky, and groovy. Artists and producers grabbing old disco or Japanese city pop samples due to their upbeat nature, for example, and chopping up those samples to take you on a field trip to the sunniest shores you can ever imagine. I've done 2 big videos focusing on Future Funk in the past, so if you want more of a complete breakdown and further examples of Future Funk, I highly recommend checking that out. I'll leave a link in the description below for those videos. And the Future Funk scene over the years has evolved pretty rapidly. Artists and producers strengthening their craft and focusing on sound design and overall mixing and mastering more than ever before. The world of Future Funk music has blossomed into an incredible field of intense creativity and hearty production. Songs where every measure is meticulously cooked up to truly bring something refreshing, exciting, and gripping to the table. But back then, there were way simpler times. And I want to go back to these days for a little bit. Back to those days before artists like Evie.exi, Barb Walters, and Unibeat were chopping up samples like 3-star Michelin chefs. The good old days, baby. Days where you grabbed your 80s city pop MP3 sample off of YouTube to MP3 converter, looped your favorite part without any care of clipping or mastering or any shit like that, threw a drum loop on there with some simple filters every now and then, and boom, you are one of the highest viewed anime gifs on Artsy Music. You did it. 2013 to 2015 was an exciting time for Future Funk, a time where the scene was first beginning to really establish what it was all about. And with a design method so simple, there was a lot of Future Funk being made by virtually anyone who wanted to do it. So you can imagine, with all this quantity, not all of it was quality. Enter Fiber, one of the scene's most influential figures and talented producers. Fiber has been involved in this Future Funk thing for quite a while now, a definite veteran in the scene, and I have him with me today to share with you a story regarding a musical project that came out during this time period that really stuck out to him compared to anything else that was coming out at the time. The project in discussion for today's video.
So it's probably about like late 2014, maybe early 2015, and I was just starting to make Future Funk music as Fiber. I think I might have had like 2 or 3 songs out, and I was invited to work on a compilation for Stratford Court, which was signifying its like first anniversary. I didn't really know that many people at the time. I was just meeting Roller Girl, if anybody remembers Roller Girl. I remember my track Walkman, which sampled like this like 60s like Japanese jazz tune, come out with the rest of the compilation, and I was flipping through it like any other person would, because I hadn't heard the compilation, previously. I just submitted my track and waited for it to come out. And I came across Tendencies, and it was this track called Go. And it was awesome because it was unlike anything I had previously heard before. I remember like very distinctly like being in class like on break and finding that song, and it was all I listened to for the rest of the day. It was nice because it was kind of like Future Funk, it was kind of like that overcompressed sort of style that you had previously heard from like people like Young Bae and Architecture in Tokyo and Saint Pepsi. But it was with this like kind of glimmer to it, like this kind of shine that I hadn't heard previously. And it was using really loud, boomy, punchy, like DMX and 707 drum samples. It was amazing to me at the time, just like as a kid. I wanted to get in contact with this guy. So, over the course of a few years, we became pretty good friends. We had this like group chat called like the Healy Hunks, where like me, Amherst, Tendencies, Camino 84, Super Sex 420, I think even Saint Pepsi and Flamingosas were in it at one point. I think Macross joined for like 2 seconds and then like disappeared. That was where I like met, Tendencies and Super Sex 420 for the first time. I remember after that compilation, I had discovered Split EP, and it had only come out like 6 or 7 months prior to, me finding it out. I just remember being like so taken aback by the production because it was unlike anything I had heard previously. This one was kind of a gear towards like more polished, more well-structured songs, and the sample selection, in my opinion, was awesome. And yeah, it was definitely playing on like some of the same tropes that existed in the future funk scene back at that time, but it was presented in like such a refreshing way that it shaped the way that I essentially saw future funk, and it affected my production style. So when I started working on Virtue's EP with Aridus back in 2016, it was definitely something that was one of my biggest inspirations, like as a musician, and I carried that with me for quite some time.
7 songs released on December 17th, 2014. The split EP and the 2 artists who created it would eventually become future funk classics. It's a gem from back in the day, songs that bring out the sunshine any day of the week. Groovy vibes on this whole thing. You gotta love it. Classic future funk that just does the job. The tracks contain the simplicity and charm of early future funk production with an exciting twist, and it was such a solid choice by Fiber and the Montem label to choose this bad boy to give the deluxe treatment to and completely remaster.
We ended up trying to figure out what would be the first vinyl release that we could do on Montem. We definitely knew that we wanted to go towards the avenue of vinyl, but we realized very, very quickly that this is already a very saturated market. In 2019, we had Neon City that had practically re-released every single album under the sun that is considered like a big future funk release. We weren't just about to start releasing any, future funk album that we found, because we already had like our gear shifted towards higher quality albums, and that's how Montem has been operating since its creation. We realized that Split EP would be a good choice for that because it hadn't been repressed previously. It was definitely an album that we felt like we could push, and it was an album that we could re-expose to newer fans that didn't even know that it existed and didn't even know about its history to begin with. Although it definitely wasn't perfect in the mixing and mastering department, it was a good example of future funk that could basically be better structured, has better like sample selection, kind of showed people that future funk could be a bit more than just the kind of messy internet genre that it is, and that it could be something that is kind of more attuned to like an experienced producer's ear. And soon after, a lot of music started coming out that sounded like Split EP.
Fiber found these tracks to stand out at the time of its release compared to everything else that was coming out, and he wanted to give this thing justice. He knew that this thing could sound even better if he could have his hand at it with all of the old original files, instrumentals, stems, whatever was used in all those old project files. But what he didn't realize is that much of the original material used to create these songs were lost or scattered in old hard drives under unrecognizable sloppy file names that we're all, we all do from time to time. I mean, half my tracks are just titled "This is a banger.wav" or whatever. And this caused him and Tendencies and Supersex 420 to go on a scavenger hunt for all these old linked files and samples.
But anyways, we decided to get in contact with Supersex and Tendencies, and we decided to ask Tendencies if they'd be down to do a vinyl pressing of the album, and they ended up saying yes. And so then we just got to work. We realized super quick that we would need to get access to the original project files to be able to actually get this to work. So we decided to ask them for the project files so that we could start the mixing and mastering phase, and we couldn't find anything, like at all. For 2 months straight, we didn't find a single project. It was pretty bad. We were starting to worry that like this wasn't actually going to happen. The vast majority of the album had been lost. Eventually, we ended up finding 5 out of the 7 tracks. Like, they weren't really like the full songs, they were just like works in progress. Some of them had some of the samples still in place. Other tracks, like So Much Love on My Mind, had literally none of the samples, none of the original samples in it. So it was this like crazy back and forth where we were like asking, hey, would you want to like go ahead and like check your hard drive and tell me what aria snare _ b2.wave is, and once you find that sample, send it over to me because I don't have it. In the instance for So Much Love on My Mind, we were able to recover most of the drums, but the sample we couldn't find, so I and the other guys like had to pretty much recreate the sampling from scratch on that track. I remember not being able to find Yeah for the longest time, and we found it in the Footsteps project file, like at the very end, like hundreds of bars away. I remember not being able to find This Is the Moment at all. We never found anything of the like, so we just did our best to try to get the master to sound all right, you know, on digital, and to sound like all right on vinyl, just as long as, you know, the needle didn't skip. And yeah, that's pretty much the process. It sounds easier said than done, but it was definitely like a digital reconstruction project. It was very, very tedious and took us from, I would say, God, I don't know, like June to probably like November-ish, and then in December we like put the order in for the records themselves. So it took a while. It definitely took a while, and I knew that for us to kind of like put our best foot forward in the scene, we needed to start with an album that like was recognizable, something that people would want to buy, and it was worth that extra effort to try to prepare.
When anyone submits an album for vinyl production, it has to be mastered a certain way, and sending this album the way it was in 2014 to any old record plant just wasn't going to cut it. It would have sounded like shit. Everything had to be taken a look at, properly mixed and mastered with a little bow on top.
We realized really, really quickly on that even though the album had specific mixing and mastering characteristics that made it unique in the way that it was, a lot of the mixing and mastering on the album was actually just a little too over the top for it to be put on vinyl. It's not necessarily that we just decided to scrap the original mixdowns. It was rather the fact that even if we had the original mixdowns, they would have been impossible to put on vinyl with all of like the booming low end and crazy distortion. I think some of the tracks genuinely were just clipping at certain points. We decided to go for a complete redo in the mixing and mastering while still maintaining a lot of the key characteristics that made the album unique, so that it was cleaned up but not too cleaned up, so that it could translate well to vinyl and digital and other platforms that we decided to put it on. If we had decided to just put the original masters on vinyl, most factories would just probably tell you that it's practically impossible to put this on vinyl in the way that it is and make it not sound like garbage.
And now, after a ton of hype and patiently waiting after these months, let's take a look at this thing. The Split EP, baby, has been given new life in a refreshed art style, virtually restoring the original artwork from 2014.
The original album used a piece from Hisashi Eguchi. His art has been used pretty commonly in a lot of older future funk stuff. Like I can remember I think 2 Architecture in Tokyo albums back in 2014 using Hisashi Eguchi pieces. That was like the cool thing at the time to do. But if we were to put this out on vinyl, we were trying to avoid as many copyright repercussions as possible. We decided to get our good friend, one of Discoholic's friends actually, I think it's like Nirs, it's like NIR4Z. She is a phenomenal artist. We gave her like some reference images from the original album. Basically, we want to make a piece that is similar to this, but is not like just straight up ripping off from it. So we decided to draw like a similar pose. A lot of the art direction led towards us trying to figure out what version of the album art to use, basically to base the new album art off of. There were basically 3 versions of the album cover. One that was like a purple cover, which had like, I think like an anime butt on it or something like that. There was another one that was like dark green and like sort of pinkish. That was like the main digital cover that if you go on like Super Sex 420 or like Tendencies Bandcamp, that's the one you would see. And then there was the tape version that used a lot of like crazy like 80s polygon designs. It was very like colorful, like 80s design inspired, but that caused a really big issue in terms of like figuring out what the art direction for this album was going to be. We kind of needed to standardize it a little bit. You know, the same cover that was on like the digital artwork would be the same cover on the vinyl, and that it would fit well for both of them. So we ended up opting for the green and pink sort of style from the original digital art, but we decided to reuse a lot of the assets from the original cassette art, which was designed by Alfred English. We wanted to keep it similar so that people wouldn't have a hard time recognizing what the album was, even though this is like an album redesign. I think that the people that worked on it that helped us get that design going, they put their 110% in. So it was like Nears, it was Alfred English for like allowing us to reuse some of the assets. Nukumachi, who goes by Wherefore now, he's like our in-house graphic designer, and he did a fantastic job on getting all of the assets that we were getting through and kind of like putting it together in like a cohesive package. So if it wasn't for him, like this album art really wouldn't have been possible.
These beautiful forest greens and light pinks are just the perfect color combo for this thing. It's gorgeous. The printing job done for them, extremely solid. Everything is high res, vivid, and full of life. Simplicity is key, and with such a minimal color palette, like literally only 2 colors, the split EP pops in delightful fashion. The vinyl itself, as expected, sounds great. The thing bumps. Montem has brought out the lows in an extraordinary way while still paying homage to the original split EP sound. OG future funk production style that we're never going to get old of, and it's still there. The split EP was sauteed to make each sound feel crisp through the vinyl medium. Nothing has really drastically changed though, and I think that's what makes this whole project such an interesting success in the first place. Restoring the split EP was nothing more than a puzzle for Fiber, a tightrope of bringing out the best it can be without going too far from the original source material and really polishing this thing to sound super clean. It still has that old charm. The vinyl is on a beautiful light pastel pink record and also came with 2 Montem stickers and one of those sealable plastic sleeves for the record. Always a nice touch. Seriously, such a huge plus when record labels do this. If you're a record label and you're watching this, spend a little extra money to get those plastic sleeves. It's going to keep us coming back, especially because I just ran out of extra plastic sleeves to store my records in. So if this vinyl is an example of what else is to come from Montem, if they are planning on doing any more restorations or just vinyl releases in general, we are in definite good hands.
Oh, I hope you have something great to wear tonight, because we're going to a party.
Party?
I want to introduce you to someone.
So this vinyl review, for obvious reasons, is going to be a real special one for me, as I want to put a lot more time and effort into this review than any other review I've ever done before. Not only because of how thankful I am for all you guys sticking around with me and helping me grow as a channel, but I really want to give this album's pressing the time and justice it deserves by going through the entirety of everything, every little detail I can pull from the entity of this vinyl record. Hit Vibes is an album I can almost without a doubt say we all love dearly, and more so I've always wanted to have its limited vinyl pressing in our collection. So hopefully this video I can share, how I feel about finally owning this colossal titan of a vinyl pressing and just explore this thing for what it is. Ladies and gents, I am proud to finally bring to you the Hit Vibes vinyl record review. A couple months ago on Twitter, I promised that once I hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers, regardless of whatever price the record was currently going for at the time I'd hit that count, I would purchase and review the St. Pepsi's 2013 Hit Vibes vinyl record. However, for those who possibly haven't heard the album before, or maybe if you're, your first time here on this channel, Hit Vibes is a classic vaporwave and future funk album that was released by Ryan DeRobertis, aka St. Pepsi, I'm saying DeRobertis right, on May 31st, 2013. As years have passed since then, the album has always remained a go-to listen due to its crisp cuts, diverse range of tempos, and infectiously groovy loops, rooted from its stylistic sample choices, making you feel like you're sipping a pineapple soda with your alleyway fight club crew on a hot summer day in 1980s Brooklyn, New York. If you're a fan of just feel-good summer adventure music, you can't go wrong with the blinding radiance this album emits. From trumpets claiming superiority on tracks like Hit Vibes and Better, to a wide range of vocal chops and pitches on songs like Skylar Spence and Strawberry Lemonade, and my favorite track on the album, Around, Hit Vibes has claimed its stardom due to its excellently executed production, and doesn't seem like it will be dethroned anytime soon in a genre that has been known to get lazy at times when it comes to its known conformities of song structuring. When nailing that happy-go-lucky, well-produced, feel-good side of vaporwave sound, few have come close in effort, recognition, and talent in comparison to the Euphoria Hit Vibes brings. As TinyMixtapes.com has said in an article about this album, with Hit Vibes, Saint Pepsi has not only found a winning formula, but he has raised the bar for contemporaries toying in a similar domain. At a time when the concept of the remix itself is being remixed, a shimmering new milestone has been chiseled from the vapor. So yes, if you haven't heard it yet, just stop this video, listen to the album, and come back when you're done. But if you have, which I'm sure you have, let's get on to why you're really here. Let's talk about this guy. What I'm holding in my hand is the black edition of the limited run promo vinyl LP of Hit Vibes. 1,000 of them exist, 500 red, and 500 black, like the one I got here, and it was released all the way back in 2015. This promo vinyl pressing is considered to be one, if not the, most coveted vinyl records to come out of the vaporwave genre. And there's so many things that give it that reputation, right? Its early existence and the vaporwave vinyl timeline makes it one of the first LPs to come out of the genre. Its composition of a variety of different samples somehow going under the radar from copyright issues, another thing. Saint Pepsi's departure from the vaporwave sound and community entirely, and also more importantly, the overall love people just have for this album are just some of the many things that make this thing so special. And I know you're wondering, Pad, how did you get this thing and how much did you pay? Hit Vibes is known to go for hundreds of dollars these days. Interestingly enough, only going for $10 back in the day on Slime Vinyl when it first came out. Believe it or not, I only spent about $90 on this thing. Yep, 90 bucks, which I'm really excited about, as I've heard stories of this thing going for like $300, $400 and up. And how did I get it? Well, it's a pretty interesting story actually, and I actually have to thank you guys for how I got it. One day I got home from work and I was reading comments on my videos, and someone, I forgot who or on what video, made a comment stating that a record store nearby him actually had the record up for sale behind the counter for $100. I kind of brushed it past it, as, you know, at the time I didn't even think of getting Hit Vibes yet. I was around like the 5,000 subscriber mark, and I was just gonna wait to deal with buying that thing when the time came, when I hit 10,000 subscribers, so I just moved past it, right? However, last month I had a pretty huge surge of new subs, and before I knew it, 10,000 subscribers was just around the corner. So I remembered that comment and spent like an hour backtracking all of my comments just to find it, and I ended up contacting the record store that the comment stated. So I'm on the phone, and the phone's ringing, and I'm thinking to myself, alright, there's no actual way they have it, and if they did, I'm sure it would be sold out already. But believe it or not, nope, guy answered, and I asked, do you guys have Hit Vibes at the store? Someone told me you guys had it there. I ended up getting really lucky, and they had it. Hit Vibes on vinyl record. Ended up talking to the owner of the shop and asked if he could ship it out to me since they were all the way in Canada, and because it was $100 in Canadian dollars, with the shipping, the whole thing ended up being just below $100 US, which I still can't believe I got it for that price. So yeah, here we are today with my wallet somehow still intact, and I'm able to spin one of Vaporwave's favorite albums, something I'm absolutely amazed at and definitely thankful for. When the record arrived at my doorstep, I immediately popped it onto my record player and dropped the needle on it. And let me tell you, it felt so surreal hearing that opening line about wearing something great tonight. I knew I was definitely about to go to a party. So I listened to the record, and then I listened to it again, and again, and again. I've listened to the record while folding some clothes. I was doing some overtime the other day with my work laptop. I had the record playing. And even I was working out. I think I was listening to the record. And let me tell you, the excitement of owning this thing on vinyl record and hearing everything Saint Pepsi originally laid down on the album, this time on some smooth wax, has been an incredible listening experience. And I do have a lot to say about this pressing in regards to how it sounds, how it looks, how it feels. It's definitely been a one-of-a-kind experience, all with an incredible story on how I've come to get this thing. Similar to my Late Night Delight vinyl signed by Saint Pepsi and my Great Hair LP signed by Flamingosis after one of his sets, it's pressings like these that bring to the table so many more layers of sentimental value, like trays of your grandma's cooking at holiday dinner. There is just something really special about holding this thing in my hand. Presentation wise, as you can obviously see and note, the pressing does not have a proper jacket nor any sort of anything showing the album artwork of Hit Vibes. And while some might say that's kind of disappointing, I definitely understand that, but I actually kind of love that counterfeit aura this cheap papery inner sleeve emits, and kind of just gives this thing that whole I'm not supposed to own this thing charm. It just feels lost, forgotten, and forbidden, and definitely something limited and was somehow snuck out of a record production factory or something. When pulling the record out of the sleeve, we see the record here, and on the vinyl we can see the inner sticker containing some of the elements of the album artwork's design, followed by the album name and the tracks for that side of the record. And once again, the dismissal of those beautiful yellow and red colors we see on the actual album artwork. artwork make this whole promotional limited run thing seem that much more relatable and authentic for this pressing. I'm holding this thing in a plastic sleeve just to protect it, and honestly was even thinking of making my own custom made Hit Vibes jacket for the record with the original artwork, so I'll keep you guys updated on that if I ever get to it. Sound wise, there really is a lot to say about this thing. As we can all recognize, Hit Vibes is praised and remembered for its concentration on production and emphasis on every little sample, chop, drum hit, filter, everything. Hit Vibes is a polished message in a bottle that manages to stay afloat through the never-ending waves of vaporwave projects that have paled in comparison to the production quality this album's tracklist has preached about for all these years, so expecting a properly mastered vinyl pressing is pretty reasonable to say the least. And I'm definitely happy to say that even upon the opening notes of the first track of the album, you can seriously feel a difference with how warm this thing sounds coming from a vinyl compared to listening to it digitally. If you thought that opening bass line in the track Better was loud and up front, well, on this thing, it sounds incredible. The vinyl pressing makes tracks like Around and Strawberry Lemonade that have those low to high rise intros really feel like you're all the way at the bottom of the deep end of a swimming pool and you're rising to the surface. As you get closer and closer, all of the sounds of the world above you become more and more prominent, gradually building up and getting closer until you splash at the surface and receive all the little jingles and pops each and every instrument is trying to deliver to you. Now remember, the bass sounds warm and present, but it is not loud and obnoxious or anything like that. There is definitely a difference, and I know this because the bass does not drown out or shift your attention from the other components coming out of this album. For example, on the track Fantasy, the bass stays its distance from that quick little vocal sample that's popping in and out of the song, and because of that, it sounds sharp and smooth, as well as any other sound coming from that song in particular. All these songs on Hit Vibes, especially with this vinyl pressing, it always sounds like all the instruments are just having a conversation with one another. They're some respectful people. Like, they're letting each other talk, they're saying thank you, you're welcome. It's a good time. This is also the same case for the song Skylar Spence, if anything more exaggerated here, as that Tatsuro Yamashita love talking sample sounds so powerful and has the room to be the star of the show, despite the inviting warmness the bass is providing. Everything is giving each other a turn and the space it deserves. And while it might sound like I'm a little bit exaggerating this thing here, it also comes ultimately down, obviously, to just how St. Pepsi produced the album, but I cannot dismiss that hearing it on this format compared to digitally on Bandcamp or like on YouTube or something like that, the vinyl pressing has really opened up my ears to how wide this album's imaginations are in regard to the diversity of everything going into each other in every song. I'm so happy to own this thing on vinyl and experience the richness the pressing brings. And with vinyl pressings flooded with copyright like Macintosh Plus's Floral Shop and Death's Dynamic Shroud's I'll Try Living Like This, maybe, just maybe, we can finally see a repress of this thing and have copyright issues not be as bad of a thing or as, dangerous of a subject to get into when it comes to the vinyl pressing. I mean, hey, just recently Late Night Delight finally got a full LP vinyl pressing from My Pet Flamingo. Expect a vinyl review on that soon too, by the way. It just came in for me. So who knows what's next, and maybe we'll see this thing get repressed. Oh, and the story, as I was talking about in the beginning of the video, it's a pretty funny one. Some of you may know my Late Night Delight vinyl, as previously mentioned, was signed by Ryan himself at his rooftop concert in Manhattan last summer. When I met him, he was also there with his roommate from college, and I got into a conversation with them about how he started his music and whatnot. And according to his roommate, Ryan took 2 weeks off of college straight. He told all his professors that he just had to take time off, and he used those 2 weeks to just work on Hit Vibes. And he said he completely crushed it all out within like a 2-week span. He would sit on his dorm floor just working day and night making this thing. Incredible. Something with so much energy came from the cheap floorboards of a college dorm room. I mean, isn't that the beautiful thing about all this vaporwave stuff anyway? Any of us can make it at any time, anywhere, and with seemingly any sort of software. All it takes is some creativity, consistency, dedication, a little bit of originality, and a pinch of luck, and maybe you'll be the next person making the next Blank Banshee Zero or Yes We're Open. We're all in this together. We've always been, and that's why I love vaporwave so much. Its doors are always open for anyone and any interpretation. You miss the old, non-congested days of vaporwave? We'll pop some headphones in and get lost in the never-ending virtual jungle of SoundCloud vaporwave exploration. Just go back in time, you can do that. Or go the complete opposite route like I did in this video and buy a vinyl record that's worth hundreds of dollars, just to explore it and bring a piece of music you love to life that much more. There's no answer, and at the same time, there's tons of answers. Thank you everyone, and forever keep it real. Much love, your boy, Pad Chennington.
I'll be honest with you, I try not to think too much of
much as I like a compliment on the record, I'd much rather someone said something kind about a record. It doesn't help you write the next one. And you must remember a review is one person's opinion. And you can't put too much store by it, so it's a thrill for the day that it's kind, or it bothers you for the 10 minutes that he hits it. And then you leave it alone. And after I've done all the promotion, or done all the TV things, or whatever it is that you do, and you go home and you're back in some normal atmosphere where it's you and a piano or you and a guitar, then you soon get down to just doing the work, which is what your career is based on.